in a world filled with retro handhelds, where games are retro and hands hold them. Two devices will rise to be held by hands. One has one stick, one has two sticks. Together, they have 3 sticks. And you have one video about 2 handhelds, the Mangmi Air Y and the Air Y Pro. 3 sticks, 2 Ys, 1 question. Why? Because handhelds. If you've never heard of Mangmi, that's fine. You're still probably a good person. Mangmi is relatively new to handhelds with only 2 devices so far, the Air X and the Pocket Max. But they've already developed a cult following, mostly because the Air X launched for under $100. It wasn't especially powerful or unique, but with a Snapdragon 662, decent screen, good controls, and solid build quality, the value was ridiculous. And then came the Pocket Max, a completely different beast with a Snapdragon 865 chip and a huge honkin' OLED screen similar to the Ein Odin 2 Portal. It wasn't the best value, but it filled a niche, and I really enjoyed it. And now Mangmi is back, filling 2 niches. Today we're looking at the Mangmi Air Y and the Air Y Pro. 2 small vertical Android handhelds using the same Snapdragon chips as Mangmi's previous devices, but now in different niche-filling form factors. They're interesting, unique, generally really good, and capable of things that most handhelds this size can't do. So let's give them a chance to wow us. Go on, do it. Wow me. No? Nothing? Fine, I guess we'll have to wow ourselves then. I don't actually know how to do that now that I think about it. Let's come back to that. The wowing. The Air Y and the Air Y Pro are similar in many ways, but also not similar in other ways because they're different in those ways. The Air Y is the lower end model using the same modest Snapdragon 662 chip from the Air X, but now it's vertical with 1 thumbstick, a 4.2-inch 1280 by 960 screen, and 32 gigabytes of eMMC internal storage. The Air Y Pro is the beefier big brother. Same general size and shape and screen and controls, except it has 2 sticks. But just like with me, it's what's inside that counts. Also like me, it has a Snapdragon 865, either 4GB or 8GB of RAM, 64 or 128GB of internal storage, and needs constant reassurance that you're not mad at it. Initially in this video, I had no idea about the price. Mangmi told us reviewers that they'd announce the price later, in like a week from now. However, after I made the video, after it was completely done, after it was uploaded, ready to go, they told us the price early. The Air Y has an early bird price of $89 and the Air Y Pro has an early bird price of $145 for the 4GB model and $175 for the 8GB model. The early bird period is from August 12th until August 15th, and after that, the prices go up to $94 and $159 and $189. I'll come back and talk about what I think of those prices at the end of the video, but I think it's pretty obvious even now, though those are really good prices. Like, really good, but we'll talk about it later. And speaking of price, I just learned that apparently you have to keep paying for electricity every month. So let's smoothly segue into a word about this video's sponsor, UGREEN. Alright, listen, I have something kind of important to show you. Kinda really important. It's the UGREEN Nexode Pro 160-watt charger with retractable cable. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, TechDweeb, why are you showing us a charger? I mean, yeah, sure, it can deliver up to 140 watts via the built-in USB-C cable or USB-C port and can charge a MacBook Pro from 0% to 55% in just 30 minutes. You're thinking, okay, it can deliver up to 160 watt total output and charge 2 laptops at the same time. Not bad. And it does have 4 ports to charge 4 devices at once. That's nice. And also, that built-in cable is retractable and can be set at convenient lengths to suit any workplace. That's pretty neat. And you're even thinking that this smart display with real-time charging info is pretty cool. But what you don't realize is something super important that I'll show you in a sec, but first check out this other charger, the UGREEN Nexode Pro desktop charger, which can deliver up to 300 watts power and features 8 ports for all-in-one charging. It has a smart display too. But back to the other thing, the thing that I wanted to show you. Check this out. This charger has Bluetooth and Wi-Fi smart app control, which means you can personalize some settings like the charging mode and power output. That's cool and stuff, but you can also change the wallpaper. Boom. Cat charger. We're living in the future, and frankly, it's adorable. And thanks UGREEN for sponsoring the video. For the AirY Pro, on the front we have a top screen and a D-pad in the upper spot and a function button in the middle, start and select under that, face buttons over here, and dual wiggle sticks. On the left side we have a power button, a volume wheel, yay! And another function button. On the right side we got some holes. Underneath we have dual downward firing speakers, boo! And up top we have an SD card hole and a headphone hole, yay! And a USB-C hole for charging and video out. Around back we have some holes for air to go in and some bumpers and triggers, sorta triggers, we'll talk about it. The AirY Non-Pro is the exact same except we only have one wiggle stick. We do have a front-facing speaker, yay! But it's only a mono speaker, boo! And the USB-C hole doesn't do the HDMI thing on this one. Mangmi has a pretty unique look to their stuff. They usually offer black with orange accents, but their retro colorway uses beige plastic with lots of red. Red buttons, red extras, red D-pad. Honestly, I hated it on the Air X at first, but it's grown on me. I don't hate it now. I might even like it. I've grown as a person. Also, I think that both models come in both colors. I've seen photos floating around that suggests that. The black version is nice too, clean and simple, and I like most black handhelds. It makes the screen pop. It also makes fingerprints pop. It's not terrible, but the hard, smooth plastic gets a little bit smudgy on the black one. The beige version doesn't have that problem, and the plastic itself feels excellent. It's smooth and solid and kind of silky under my fingers, and it's surprisingly premium. And also, everything else feels good, not just the plastic. I was surprised by how comfortably these fit my hands. Helped a lot by the unusual bumpers and triggers. They have a really pleasing shape with little dips where your fingies naturally rest. Always support your fingies. The overall size is a great middle ground too. It's not little like the RG35XX Plus or huge like the RG477V. It's compact enough to feel Game Boy-ish, but large enough for a nice big screen and more full-size controls. A medium boy. Like me. And it's probably pocketable too. Let's check in with my temp and see what he thinks. Of course, TechDweeb, that's what I'm here for. Happy to do pocket tests and be a temp. You know, temp, I gotta say, your attitude has really turned around. I'm impressed. Thanks, TechDweeb. I am a professional after all. Anyways, the Mangmi Pocket Y is... that's interesting. It's not like small, but it's not huge and annoying. It really is a middle ground size. A little heavy, but not too bad. And even though it has sticks and trigger humps, they're pretty low profile, and that's actually not too bad feeling in there either. I'm thinking maybe a 6.5 out of 10 on the pocketability scale is appropriate. Alright, good job. Thanks. Sure. Anything else I can help with, TechDweeb? No, just the pocket test. I could also test the controls and stuff. No, that's my job. I do the controls. What about benchmarks? No, just the pocket test is good. Okay, if you say so. Just remember, I'm happy to help with anything else too. Okay, I'll remember that. And now I'm gonna do my thing and talk about the controls. They're really good. The D-pad and the buttons and the bumpers and the triggers all use a firm membrane with like a soft click. They're comfortable, accurate, and very quiet. At first I thought maybe I was having a hard time hearing them because I had wax in my ears. And I did. But even after cleaning my ears, they were still incredibly quiet. The D-pad is basically perfect. No false diagonals, but easy diagonals when you want them. Great for fighting games. The sticks are excellent too. I don't know if these are Hall effect sticks or whatever, but they are perfectly accurate with no cardinal snapping. The regular AirY only has one stick, which makes sense. It mostly tops out around Nintendo 64 and Dreamcast and PSP, which were, designed around one stick anyway. The more powerful Pro needs two because it can play dual stick games. The shoulder buttons might be my favorite part. Their shape creates a perfect little shelf for your fingies, and they have a super satisfying kind of squishy click to them. My only gripe is that L2 and R2 are connected. You can press them individually, it's not really a problem, but they do kind of feel a bit like a rocker, and they take some getting used to. But overall, Mangmi absolutely nailed the controls. Comfortable, accurate, quiet, and some of the best I've used on a vertical handheld. It is a lovely little finger playground. The screen is, might be sort of a weakness here though. Don't get me wrong, it is still good. It's crisp, bright, surprisingly saturated for an LCD, and the 1280 by 960 resolution gives you plenty of pixels to work with for scaling and realistic shaders. I think this is the same screen as the iNeo Pocket Air Mini, if I'm not correctly mistaken. My only gripe is the ghosting. It's mild and I only notice it in certain games, so it's not a deal breaker for me, but if you're sensitive to ghosting, your ghost detectors are gonna be beeping. My go-to test for ghosting is the Arkista's ring test. Here, when you move your character, you gotta look at the grass, and if it looks like it changes while you move, like the grass getting smudgy and the path darkening while you're moving, that's the ghosting doing its spooky business. Most of the time you won't notice it, but when you do, you do. Yeah, you do. Ghosts. The sound is tremendously average. The Air Y Pro is slightly louder and it has stereo speakers, but they fire downward, and the non-Pro has a front-facing speaker, but just one of them. Neither gets particularly loud or sounds amazing, but they sound, like retro handhelds. For retro games, they are totally fine. Both use more or less the same basic Android system and it's fine. There's a built-in launcher that installs emulators, but it missed some of my game lists, and also the emulators still needed manual setup. So I told it that I was disappointed and I just installed my own stuff as usual. I use ESDE as my gaming front-end, RetroArch for the older systems, PPSSPP for PSP, Dolphin for GameCube, NetherSX2 for PS2, Azahar for 3DS, and Eden for Switch. You can go into the settings and then into the handheld settings menu, and that's where you can customize hotkeys and RGB. On the Pro, you can also change the video out resolution with plenty of options. Holding the middle button opens a sidebar. On the Pro, you can cycle between different performance and fan modes. The non-Pro just gets a performance toggle. There's also button layout options, turbo, some system shortcuts, basic stuff, but it saves time. Time that I can spend feeding meat to the dark cube that lives in my basement.
What?
Gaming performance isn't going to be full of surprises because both chips are well known by now. The Air Y uses the same Snapdragon 662 as the Air X, and the performance seems identical. So on this one, you're going to get everything through Dreamcast, N64, and PSP. But unlike cheaper Linux doodads, you'll get basically the entire libraries, including harder to run games. In that sense, this is almost the ultimate classic retro chipset. A sentence that I'm sure will cause several calm and reasonable comments. You can push into higher end systems, but don't buy it for that. I didn't have much luck with GameCube or 3DS, although I didn't tinker much. However, I did tinker a little bit, and I did get some PS2 games working, so higher end emulation isn't impossible. It's just more of a fun bonus than a reason to buy one of these. For Dreamcast and below though, this is a big, comfortable handheld with excellent controls, and everything plays great. The Air Y Pro moves into the higher end stuff. Its Snapdragon 865 is the same chip used in the Retroid Pocket 5, and there's approximately 700,000 videos showing what the RP5 can do. Performance here is essentially identical. It handles all the classic systems, most GameCube and PS2, plenty of Switch, and even a good bit of PC games through Game Native. My unit has 8 GB of RAM. That's the version you should get if you want Switch or PC emulation, but for GameCube and PS2 and below, 4 GB should be fine. GameCube and PS2 are surprisingly good on here. I've played these kind of games on the RG476H and the big old RG477V, Retroid doodads, and plenty of other plastic rectangles, but having that performance in a medium-sized vertical handheld feels new. I kinda love it. Even PC games were surprisingly cool. I didn't try many, but now I want to install more and see how much Steam nonsense I can cram into this Game Boy. Battery life is a mixed bag depending on what you're playing. On the Pro, upscaled PS2 at the highest power profile got us just under 2 hours. But with NES on the lowest power profile, I got about 25 hours. That's more than a full day of Blades of Steel. The non-Pro got just over 3 hours with upscale Dreamcast on the high end and around 12.5 hours with NES on the low end. So the Pro did better at the low end while the non-Pro did better at the high end. That sounds backwards, but the Pro has a newer, more efficient chip and its high-end test was also much more demanding. Overall, performance is exactly what I expected from these chips. Games run well, excellent battery, and everything feels great because the handhelds themselves feel great. And here we are at the end. This is the entire outro is re-recorded because now that we know the price, it kind of sets the scene for why this all makes sense. My hope was that the Air Y would come in at $100 and the Air Y Pro would come in at $200, just based on the quality of the devices and the chipsets. However, the price is much lower even than I had hoped, which is crazy to me. In this world where everything with RAM and storage is getting more and more expensive, somehow Mangmi made these two super cool high-quality vertical Android handhelds coming in way less than I thought they would. The early bird price is bonkers. $89 and $145 or $175? Are you kidding me? That's a steal for what you get here compared to everything else you get at that price. And even after the early bird, $94 and $159 and $189. That's still a really, really good price. So initially my conclusion of the video was kind of lukewarm because I was cautious not to give them too much praise in case they came out more expensive than I had hoped. But at these prices, I am so impressed with the Air Y and the Pro. The reason that the Mangmi Air X was such a big hit was that it was a great value. For the price, it was unbeatable. Mangmi frickin' did it again. These things have an amazing build and are comfy as heck, and they're really powerful for the price, and I'm just happy that I get to share something that's an actually good deal these days. It's stuff like this that gets me excited for this hobby, even amidst the component shortage apocalypse. Anyways, I don't think there's any links I can share yet, but when I have links to share, I'm gonna pop them down in the thingy below. And that's what I think, but now it's your turn. What are your thoughts? Either about these doodads or just in general. What do you think of things? I'm curious to know because I think things about things sometimes, and I like to tell people. Like how I think cereal is breakfast soup. Think about that. Yeah.